OSAC meeting. Let's go ahead and get this meeting started. Let's start with roll call when you're ready.
All right. Okay, Amber Greaves here. Christy Verbeck. Hi, here. Jeffrey Wade. Joanne Maneri. Here. Kara Noisy.
Yes.
Michael McDonald.
Yep.
Rita Trainer.
Present.
Todd Gleason.
Here.
Tracy Bain.
Here.
And then for staff, we have Leslie
Here.
and myself, and then Mike Foster.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So good to see everyone. Are there any changes that we need to discuss for the agenda this evening? Any motions to change? Not seeing any, so let's press on. And this is where we move to our public comments. For anyone who might be online, this is a great opportunity for you to share some thoughts that might be applicable to open space for future consideration for future agendas. It's not a discussion, unfortunately, but we would love to hear what thoughts you might have for open space. Do we have any online?
We have Tom online.
Okay.
Oh, he's raising his hand.
Oh my goodness.
And congrats on becoming a Bird City USA. Pari's been keeping me updated, and she's saying that you're all staying in line. So good for you for not giving her too long. But I mean, she's been there for long enough now that should be all smooth sailing. But I wanted to say hi to my OSAC family and miss you all, and think of you all daily.
I'm so happy to hear from you, and I hope you're well.
Yeah, things are good in the east. It's a little hot right now, but I think we got caught in that heat wave. But I think things are gonna go back to normal soon. So,
Well, for ladies and gentlemen who might be listening and who are not familiar, this is our previous park ranger, the first one. So Tom, it's so good to hear from you, and thanks for chiming in and sending us those congrats. And it's all because of work that you and Pari helped make happen.
it's a big team behind the machine, and you all are a big part of it too. So I just wanted, if I was on video, you'd see I have my OSAC hat on right now too. So number one fan, definitely in Massachusetts, calling in to say keep kicking butt, everyone. And like I said, miss you all, and yeah, you guys are doing awesome.
Thanks so much, Tom.
Good to hear from you.
Your voice.
Yeah, you too. Have a great meeting.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
I miss him. Are there any other surprises? Or that was such a great one. Any public comment?
No, he was the only one.
And I don't see any in this room. So let's go on to our OSAC discussion items, and we'll begin with our staff and liaison updates. Let's start with, Pari, yeah.
Okay, so youth stewards, I just want to give an update. They're a little bit more than halfway through their season, just really fast. So after this week, they have 3 weeks left. And we did a lot of different projects for like FEMA and, leading, getting the Russian olive trees, linseed oil, cleanups, you name it. And they got to do some stuff at Civic Space today because it was a heat advisory. So they were released a bit early, which they were thrilled about. But it's going well, and the team is really productive, which I'm really happy about. And yeah, they have a good 3 weeks left of their season until the end of July. Some programs that just happened the last month, I just want to give an update. We had that Hunter's Education course with CPW. We had about 26, 27 people show up here at the center. And that went really well, good turnout. CPW officers were really good at teaching all of that and, about ethical hunting and everything. It was really detailed. And
That was on Saturday, right?
that was on a Saturday.
Yeah, my husband purchased. He was in the class.
Oh, he was?
Yeah, he said it was great.
Yeah, it was really good. And so that went really well. We had a wildflower walk and Todd helped spearhead that and he was able to find someone to help lead that class. Did you want to add anything about it, Todd?
No, Joanne attended.
Yeah.
We had a lot
It was really good. We saw a lot of flowers that I've been by there and never noticed. And Jeff and Todd had gone out ahead of time and sort of scouted the area and picked out flowers to, they knew where they were looking for different things. It was really good. We had a diverse group and there was a couple of women who knew their flowers and.
and Jeff was a good storyteller.
Well, he was.
A story with every plant. It seemed like.
Yeah. This is on Meadowlark Trail, right?
Yeah.
It's not there. So thank you for that, Todd. We had a bird watching program with Dave Sutherland, one of our naturalists, and he led, this was the second one that he led. No, third one actually, because he did one for World Migratory Bird Day. So he did like a similar route for this one. And it was a good turnout as well. I think we had, I want to say 13 people showed up.
Oh.
Yeah. Which is pretty decent. They went to like Bose Pond and everything to just look at the local wildlife and the ponds around Purple Park. A couple programs coming up. We have a pollinator garden program. This was the one that was it's rescheduled. So the original one was in May. So we're rescheduling for July 16th, which is a Wednesday next week. We're looking for more volunteers. Butterfly Pavilion will be there. Friends of Cold Creek will lead that one. So Casey will be there. Youth stewards, and then other volunteers if we can gather a few more people.
What time is that?
That one is at, it's kind of split, so it's 9 to 3, but people can do leading like the first half, or they can do planting the second half. So like 9 to 12 is leading, and then 12 to 3 is.
And where did people meet?
Purple Park. They can park at East Pavilion and just walk over. It's the big bed along Rock Creek, but we're going to be maintaining, I think, about 6 beds out there. We have a star party coming up, and this is going to be the first astronomy program that I've organized, and this is with Stanley Lake Stargazing, and it's a nonprofit out in Arvada. We had a program with them that got canceled last year with El Dorado. This was supposed to be done at El Dorado, and then the winter storm came, so I wanted to kind of make up for that. So that one is coming up, and then we have another program for the little ones called Little Critters. So this is their second one that they'll do later at Purple Park.
And where's the star party?
That one is gonna be at Colton Trailhead. July 15th, 9 to, it's late because, you know, my time.
Yeah.
9 to 10:30 p.m. We have 12 people signed up so far out of 50. So that one is going to be on a Tuesday, Fulton Trailhead.
Okay.
Little Critters is at Purple Park, July 30th, 10 to 11 a.m.
10 to
11. And then, I think utility base for the gardening. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bari.
Lots of programs.
We have several things, so I'll try and touch on them quickly. The Coyote Ridge parking lot is still moving forward, but they are finalizing their permit and getting all, they had to get some comments back and make a response for the stormwater report that they were required to do. So that's getting very close.
It's good to hear that because someone actually asked about that on the 1st of July. So okay.
I wanted to ask and see if you all would be interested in our GIS staff person coming to the August meeting. He's been working on some mapping things that are fabulous, interactive maps that you can click on. We updated the one at the OSAC booth on the 4th, but since then he's added like not only how many acres of parks and open space, but how many miles of trail and how many miles are hard surface and how many miles are soft surface. And he just keeps adding data and adding data. And I think it's great information for this group. If you would like a tour.
I think that could be really cool. What do you think?
Yes.
And you might even have some suggestions for additional data points that might be, helpful for OSAC.
Absolutely, because I'll tell you, just for starters, one that always seems to be difficult to identify is how much of our town is actually open space. Because I think all too often, there's this thought that if there's nothing developed on it, it's open space. And so that with a tool like that, we would really be able to articulate better.
I think it at least gives you a visual of what you're talking about when you say open space and
Yeah.
when you say parks.
Yes.
It gives you that visual so
Oh.
you kind of understand what the reference point is.
I think that would be great. And if you could come in August, I mean, I guess the only thing, since we don't have a meeting, but before now and then is there anything that would he like for us to have?
I could send
Questions or-
yeah,
So-
the map. Because it's on the website, he just may not have all the layers turned on. And I'll see if we can send you a link where you have access to all that.
And I guess, for us, he maybe, and I'm curious what you all think, but maybe for this next month, we consider what we would want this tool to do. So when we come in August, we're ready to just give a barrage of ideas. I'm thinking Coyote Ridge.
Yeah.
And it's not a one and done. We can put a wish list together and we can just work on it throughout, but at least it's, I think it might stir up some ideas.
So I'm excited to hear them because when I look around the room, I think of the wildlife encouragement, the wildfire mitigation and our developmental plans. And yeah, so thank you. Thank you for setting that up.
A question for you. Well, and one thing, because I sent you that wildlife corridors. I haven't had a chance to work on that. Is that in there?
It's not in there yet,
Okay.
but that feeds right into that project. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome.
And maybe I can see if he can get that in there before the August meeting, so folks can. Pat asked about our consultant for Coyote Ridge to look at trail priorities. I have not done anything on that yet, so I'll report back on that progress again. I did talk with Mile High Flood District today. They are definitely putting together what they're calling a revegetation plan for Rock Creek.
Okay.
And they wanted some clarification whether we wanted it to be a totally new landscape, but more of what it was prior to the fire, or something different. all native. Maybe it's all native.
To me, that's the main criteria, it's just native.
And some of the species that were there prior to the fire were not native. So so that distinction from this group, you would prefer to keep it the native species. Okay.
Or at least nothing that is noxious or invasive,
Okay, that's a good distinction.
because there are some non-native plants that play well with natives.
And they
those-
grow faster too, because some of the native stuff, like trees wise, there's only cottonwoods, right?
Well,
So,
we had willows. I guess willows are not.
Right.
So do we want willows or do we not want willows?
Willows are good for stream bank stabilization.
And there were quite a few willows there prior to the fire. So I think native, bordering on pre-fire conditions, just not noxious.
Right,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say
Okay.
so.
yeah,
Okay, and they're gonna do it for the whole corridor of Rock Creek, but they're gonna focus on the area they hit this last year, so.
okay.
That will give us kind of a roadmap for when we do flood mitigation work. What we do after.
What about Coal Creek?
Coal Creek, is not necessarily on their project list, although we can ask for it to be, because most of the work that was done there was timber pecan that we want to go in and restore. I mean, they have done work there and they will in the future, so I think I can ask for that as a future project if you want me to, and they're collecting those projects now. But we do have a donation coming to us of 9 cottonwood saplings.
For Cold Creek.
For Coal Creek. Mhm. They are not nursery material, they're more volunteers that somebody has harvested, so I think they're appropriate for that more native area. It's not a groomed park, it doesn't have to be a tree that's, you know, perfectly straight. So and I believe we're gonna ask Casey with Friends of Coal Creek to help us locate some good spots for those, because we don't have irrigation, so we need to put them close enough so that their root system can get to the water table, but not so close that we end up cutting them down because they're a flood mitigation issue 10 years down. So.
Well, I would think that Mile High would be willing to entertain us having them do Cold Creek as well, but that would be a positive for the.
And I think it would not be all that much different from what they do for Rock Creek, so it might be a
More of the same.
follow-up project for them. So yes.
I think no reason to,
Right, the worst I could say is no.
No.
Leslie, remind me again, how does the Rock Creek restoration get funded again?
Well, it's gonna get funded through us, through the town, pretty much. Unless we might find donations, we might find some grant material. And Mile High seems to be pretty willing to throw some resources at it, and they do have consistent funding and interest in that. So while it might be more of a plan this year, it might be plant material the following years, but that might work out. Comp plan goals. So Rita and Kara volunteered to work on our goals for the comp plan, which will be reflected also in the management plan. And you guys can jump in here anytime. We had 3 goals and they kind of encompassed all of parks, recreation, and open space. After working on them for maybe 20 minutes, we realized it probably made more sense to make one goal that's focused on open space, one goal that's focused on developed parks and recreation, and then I think we're going to have a 3rd goal that's more art and history. So I kind of took the comments from that meeting along with what was already in there. And I made a draft, and I'll send this out after the meeting, probably tomorrow morning, but it has a goal with some bullet points underneath it that might be called strategies. And then some bullet points under some of those that might be called recommendations or whatever. But if you all have time between now and the next meeting, and you don't have, you know, if you have input, you can go ahead and email it to me. Just don't start a conversation on email with everybody. But I think it's getting closer, so I'll send those around. And then I had another piece come up related to the comp plan, and they were looking for definitions.
Oh, cool.
And they were looking for definitions for open space, parks, and recreation. So I took a stab at these. This is more than a definition. It's kind of a definition and overview because I felt like it needed a little bit more background. But again, I tried to pull the pieces in that we've talked about when we have been talking about open space definition, and I tried to make it applicable to our current conditions as well as potential future scenarios that might come up. So again, I'll email this out to everybody. You don't have to comment on anything other than open space, but if you want to, you can. All right. And I think that's all my updates. unless folks have questions.
Do you have an update on, pond dredging? I didn't realize that project was gonna be a long project.
It was not supposed to be a summer-long project, and I do have an update. Their vendor, had a few glitches with the landfill, and so they had to find a different landfill for the dredged material, and so that took probably 3 weeks. They were off the job for that. They were delayed during the heavy, rain period we had early spring, but, yeah, they've doubled their crews out there for this week and next week, and they're supposed to be done at the end of next week, and then they come back in with, repair work. So that all that turf or whatever they have disturbed and damaged will get put back.
I think there were 3 ponds that were targeted for this year. Will they get to, I can't remember where the other 2 were. Will they get to those?
They have the permit already approved for the pond on 88th out there.
Oh, yeah.
And then they're working on permits for next year for I think 2 other ponds. More of what they're calling community park east and west, which are really, I think the one behind Safeway, and then the big retention area that is now mostly cattails. And they did clarify that their permitting and their plans for these projects will be based on maintenance needs. And then once we see what those are, the town can look at those and say, oh, we want you to do something in addition to that. So like it might be just making sure that the channel is clear in the middle and the inlet and outlet are clear. That might be, it may not be, oh, let's dredge out the whole thing, which I'm not sure that's what we want anyway. So, yeah. But that's where those projects stand.
It's that large cattail area in
Mhm.
west of Community Park proper.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great red-winged blackbird.
Well, and that's just part of it. I mean, it used to be open water,
Really?
clear water at one, when it was new.
Yeah.
But now it's
And the
developed.
dogs and things loved it then.
Yeah.
There were very different critters that lived at that point.
So, I don't know that our goal is to put it back to what it was in the beginning. It might be just one, make sure it functions properly. But then if there are other things that come up, maybe we want an area that's a viewing area, or that is, maybe once they clear the channel, there is some, duck habitat. I don't know. But we can look at those once they have those permits and plans put together.
Thank you.
One last question, any update on clearing trees? All the seedlings along El Dorado, that they are getting really bad.
Yeah.
And my concern wildfire wise is in the fall, they're gonna dry out, they're not irrigated.
Yeah,
They're right up against all.
They need to go.
Yeah, they need to go. They're like over 12, 13 feet high now. It's like a whole grove.
It's amazing how, quickly they shoot up and how healthy they are, but
They're so.
I think we determined they were
Kinda
too big
sad.
of a project for the youth stewards, right? Yeah, so
Yeah.
probably that needs to be a vendor, yeah.
Well, and I've noticed with the internet.
The installers,
Cabling that's going on, they've got like backhoes back there and they're digging things out, so first I thought, well, maybe that's what they're doing along all the fencing. But I mean, maybe I don't know, it seems like they're kind of clawing out everything along those fences.
so they might
Irrigation for the.
inadvertently do some of that work, but we should probably come in right behind them and
Yeah.
make sure it's cleaned up, so. I will put that on my to-do list.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about youth stewards? So you're halfway through the experience. That was a do-it-yourself project on part of town. Does it work out the same, better or worse than doing, the Boulder County thing?
My honest opinion.
Sure.
I think it has turned out better.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different variations that went into like the application process, the interviews and things like that. So there's definitely, when you sponsor a team from Youth Corps, you don't know who you're going to get because they handle it. You just get the team. So I think with the initial process of them applying and laying out what, we require and what experience we want, I think it helped narrow down a lot of the applicants. I think we had over 30 applicants, and then we ended up with the final 8 plus so I think this team they've gotten a lot done already. They move fast. And they do what I tell them to do.
Most importantly.
And they listen to their youth leader, which is great. There's a lot of respect that's given, and they respond really well. And a lot of them are Superior residents, and then some of them are from Louisville, so they're really good.
Are they the same crew that was helping like at National Trails Day?
And that was Silk. That's Jeremy's, yeah. Those are different kids.
But yeah, it's a good group.
They're good neighbors. Yeah. Very good group.
Yes, they were.
too.
So it could totally unravel in the last 3 weeks, but based on how things are going now, would you want to would you do it again next year? Rather than do the thing through the county?
Judging by where we're at now and how much they've gotten done, my answer is yes, I would do it again. But I want to kind of summarize it when the season is over to kind of see like what were the pros and cons. Is this something we want to continue, and all this like Leslie to she has final say. So it's usually not me, but yeah, I think so far it's been really good. Yeah.
Good.
Okay, and town council member Mike?
Full transparency, I'm back from 2 vacations, so I'm still getting back on mountain time and still getting caught up on the last 2 meetings, council meetings. Don't have much of a
Glad you got away. You're welcome back.
time.
Next on our agenda is the town council meeting issues. Is there anything anyone's thinking that needs OSAC emphasis at town council? The only thing I could think of, and it was something that we've talked about, but on July 14th, the town council is going to have on their agenda a discussion of turning the Turnbull property, one of the 76th Street properties, potentially being zoned as open space. We weren't necessarily invited or not invited to speak on that, but when it comes to those properties, they tend to be very low on our list of priorities. But I don't know, I wanted really to see what your thoughts are.
Yeah.
So that's on the July 14th meeting.
So that's the property that is east of Saginaw.
Is there a financial impact to OSAC? Yes, this is zone change.
What is east of Saginaw?
Kind of just
Isn't that
field.
east? East.
It's north.
It's north.
East of Sagamore.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yours.
It's right behind.
I'm a quarter turn off.
Yeah.
The same place that folks were worried about the burritos and coming toward them, or is that different?
No.
So that's already open space for the county, right?
Mhm. And they did do a removal process out there.
A relocation process?
I don't know if they relocated them. I don't think so.
We don't have a place to relocate them to.
But
Well, right, we usually chime in on these things.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's,
so
But it was Boulder County property at the time, not Thomas Perry.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Right, okay,
Yeah, it's that open space that sits behind the homes.
right.
On the other side of the little drainage swale,
on the west side of the homes.
correct.
So how were they exterminated, do we know?
I don't know.
There's some of the live trap and donate the Raptor. Birds of Prey Foundation, Raptor.
it would be good to know actually more than just some then, because I doubt the sum was the majority of what happened to
The
them.
majority would probably, use percussion dreams.
Yes.
And I can reach out and try and get that information. So that's
I
desired.
try to follow what Boulder Springs doing over the years, we can help with needed land and where that is, but I understand we're all jurisdictions are jockeying for space.
Yeah, and they were getting hit up from the residents there. So I think that was a response to that.
And so this property, I perhaps misspoke, so it's not that it's gonna be considered as open space, it's gonna be developed potentially.
Yeah.
Is that what that says?
Guardian storage. Yeah.
Okay, and so it is on the bottom of our list for our open space priorities. I mean,
So it's up for rezoning,
for development,
potentially for an extension of the storage facility.
it doesn't say necessarily that, does it?
Leslie, what's the agenda? I'm looking at the agenda for Monday.
Plan development.
Plan development.
Yeah. So just like, original town.
Do we need to chime in?
Plan development.
Everything else that's going on, it's probably.
I agree.
Yeah.
Not a part of it.
And from our review, we said that this
It's never
not a
a
priority.
priority for us.
I'm sure the residents back there are not super thrilled with that, but
And then maybe they'll make public comment. They've not come here to make comment.
Yeah, we haven't,
I have a friend who lives back there.
I think they were
Yeah.
at the first reading. We had some comments.
and they would have preferred that it was not done.
I think most of them would have preferred that it was not done, but I didn't hear all the comments
Okay.
because it was late.
I can't think of any other work worthy of us engaging town council with right now that we have not already brought up recently. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next topic then. That's the open space management plan.
So I think a lot of the work that we're doing for the comp plan will feed into that management plan, and I think the mapping project will feed into the management plan quite well. But we are continuing to work on some of those land management practices. And if you look in the definitions for open space, I included some of the things that open space, how it's what may be included in open space and what may be, and how that land is managed. And I basically just said it's gonna be managed according to the open space management plan. But the things that might be included might be something to look at, because I put a note in there that anything beyond like trails, parking, fencing, signage, seating areas, vistas, and I think I even put in there structures for bird habitat. Could all be things that are in open space, but anything beyond that, which might include public art, or it might include a shade shelter, or it might include even a restroom, would maybe require approval by this group and then town council, so that you have the ability to chime in on particular open spaces and whether those kind of things would be appropriate. So, for example, we talked about the Marshall Fire Memorial. And would that be appropriate for that open space that sits just below Ormond Road? And I think with the idea that it was going to be more of a seating area and a vista, kind of not a structure,
Very passive. no
passive.
Tall
This
monuments or.
was in support of that, and I think Boulder County also chimed in and said yes, they would be agreeable to something like that. But I think that kind of purview is important. You know?
And that level of scrutiny
Yeah.
had to be done to make sure that we stay within the guidance of keeping things open space.
Yes.
So
But if there are things I missed or things you think I have in the wrong category, that I think that can then also carry over into the management plan.
Are you saying that that's in these definitions?
Definitions plus commentary.
So it's an ongoing project.
It's an ongoing project. It is.
Well, but for the notes, I'm trying to make sure I've got this
Yes.
correctly.
For the open space management plan, it is an ongoing project.
I'm so glad that we'll see this in the conference.
And like I said, they may not take all of that. They may just take the piece that is truly the definition. But for our context, I think I needed to put that additional information in there because things are never black and white.
Shades of gray.
Okay, no, that's great. Anything further on the management plan team?
Oh, I do have one other thing. Did you download that survey report? I did finally get the full survey report. If you all want to see it, I can email it out to folks, but yeah, here it is. We think it's not that long. It just talked about, these are some of the general questions, whether they're a resident, a business owner, property owner, they work here, but you can see everybody uses open space, which is nice. Which decade were you born? That's kind of a better way to ask how old are you, but yeah, it looks like, you know, the categories are probably reflective of people who have time to answer a survey or the drive to do that. But I mean, it's a good spread. Yeah, I think it is. And again, I'll send this out so you can look at it in detail. Yeah, do they have children? Are they an empty nester? It's an interesting spread that we've got all types here. And then this gets into the heart of it. So this is age again. We can kind of see where that's at. This surprised me. And I almost male and female. I almost think
Mostly male.
I almost think people answered it incorrectly, maybe, because this seems very skewed. So I don't necessarily. That might be a question that just didn't.
No, it's
People didn't
mostly male.
answer.
How many responses?
Mostly male.
Yeah.
7 total? Can't quite read that.
Males is 6.
So yeah, it looks like it's very. A lot of people. That's a good question. So, but that's interesting. Okay.
Sure, they had more certain response.
Oh yeah. This also surprised
But just
me
went to that question.
most people said English was their first language. I thought we'd have a little sliver of others, but there really was not any Spanish. But again, these are questions that were not required, so not everybody answered it. Ethnic diversity. And you can keep it. Person with disability. This I think is about on target. 4% of the people identify as having a disability. Yeah. And then, how often do they go there? Daily, a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then weekly is the next one and monthly, and so that tells. Let it keep going.
That doesn't surprise me though, because I see a lot of the same faces, even. People I don't.
Yeah. Most people walk, some people drive and bike. Yeah. Nobody seems to take public transportation, which doesn't.
To open space.
I redacted people's emails. I couldn't figure out how to get them off of here. But these were some open-ended questions that people answered. Primary purpose. Yeah, no surprises there. More programmed activities, which is interesting. Better access might encourage people to go more often, or improve trail conditions. So people ranked these. So
Let's do an example of a programmed activity be National Trails Day. Is that considered programmed activity?
yeah, or like the stargazing, or wildflower walk. Yeah.
Purpose or goal, raise awareness around
Mhm.
wildflowers or something.
Yeah, and then what's the most important issues? Protecting wildlife, fire mitigation came in second, trail management.
That's important.
Trail construction, so that those are kind of maybe related. Observing wildlife, signage, prairie dog areas. So there's some good stuff there. And then what trails do you enjoy the most? Cody Ridge, Colton. All the trails, Meadowlark, Mayhofer, Single Tree, Colton Creek.
Who was that second one? I can't.
The COS, I don't know what they might be referring to, or
Or an open space, I mean, not that it's actually called that, but you know.
oh, well,
Okay.
Yeah. that might be.
Okay.
So, anyway, I'll send this out to everybody, and, I think these are maybe a little bit more, informational for this group. 5 improvements that are needed, and it's probably too small for you all to read what those are.
More trail control connection, and then I love it the way it is.
Responding to this.
Yeah.
So this, and I had Kevin go over it with me. There were like over 280 something. So, I don't know, these numbers don't seem to reflect that, so I might need him to download this for me and make sure I have all the numbers correct. But I'll get this out to everybody. I think this is it. If nothing else, provides some assurity to the direction that you all are going and the assumptions made. Yeah, we had the.
It was a nice segue to the next agenda item.
Budget.
No, evaluating.
Oh, the
trails.
evaluating trails.
And how does that from Ireland?
And it dried out. It was,
Not-
but it's supposed to be wet, so it was just fine. And sorry, I missed last meeting, but I was enjoying my fish and chips.
Do we have any updates on evaluating trails?
We circulated to the group, the information so that you can see what was there, what we promised we'd get you. And Todd has also put together pictures And did we send that to everyone too?
We have not,
That was just you and I.
Yeah.
that-
Rita made me do maps.
Because Rita sucks
Yeah.
at them.
So.
They aren't numbers, so I can't.
So we can do two things. We can just send them out as PDF maps with little descriptions, and we can all do our own thing. Or we can do a speed dating version of description of the maps on the screen if you want to walk through them. Your call.
So we're going to be asked to rent them like we rent properties.
Yeah.
Right.
Did we decide how often we were going to do them?
That's what Todd and I were discussing, and we had thought that we would recommend an annual process, but after going through it once, as a group, we may say, oh, maybe we don't want to do that. But the reason that we were talking about it as an annual process is putting it into the budgets and using that as our recommendations to council as to what, if we put $50,000 in the budget for trail work, here's what we prioritize as the top thing.
Well, that was my main question is, how we're going to use it because it has the property evaluations going to be wildly useful, honestly, right? I mean,
I agree with you.
It may be that we choose to review them every couple of years. They're dated now. I think it is useful for us to
do the project.
clear the deck of all the low priority things and have a handful.
And it's been 5 years since that was done.
The town staff can be aware of and put in the budget.
Mhm.
But then we get, we get trail requests occasionally from the public. And so it seems to make sense to do some kind of review at some interval so that we can feed those in and rank them or toss them out. So I'd say, why don't we go through the exercise and then
Okay.
and then make a decision about whether it's every 2 years, every year.
Makes sense.
And
And you would talk about those that we think might need to be built.
right, and that's what we had in there. And Todd and I went through the whole inventory of what was out there, and we threw out anything that was already been completed, or I'm trying to remember all the statuses, but
There were some redundancies we tossed out.
and there are some that would
And
have
there were
been
some that
decided
were
to be.
development. They
Yeah.
were still sitting around from before Calmonte was developed, or, one area or another, we talked those out.
And some that were redundant in a way, but there'd be two different trails that were recommended that basically were gonna serve the same area but differently. Maybe one was gonna go a block further east or a block further west.
Yeah.
And Todd and I did go through on some of those and say, well, this seems the most logical, like we do things like bike or walk
Yeah.
to the area and look, oh, well, if we did it here, there's this physical obstacle you have to go over, like you'd have to do a bridge on this and that would make it a lot more expensive. But if you go this way, you don't have to do that. And then there was one like behind Christie, that we talked about. There's two options there.
Yeah.
And Todd's even got that in his map, that, it's like a option A and option B.
You're shaking your head. I don't
No, because I think we
Okay.
need to leave it alone.
Yeah.
It's just, it's just not. People get through it fine. It doesn't erode. It's been there forever, same condition, like, just leave it alone.
Yeah.
I can film like what really goes on there if you guys wanna know.
So
I just think you're opening.
I have a quick question, if I could jump in. Guys hear me all right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Can't tell. I think, seeing this for the first time, just looking at it, and it came up when Leslie and I were talking over the weekend, or at the 4th of July, some of these trails that could be considered access points for the town to Coyote Ridge might be somehow integrated into that planning, I guess, once we get that consultant on board, because if we're going to invest in improving Coyote Ridge, we should also consider how the town will access the trail, because they're not going to come in through the parking lot, right? Typically, they're going to enter in some of these trails that go along either McCaslin or behind the South Pool. So I just wanted to raise that because it's something Leslie and I just discussed briefly because a few people have repeatedly asked about access points along McCaslin, and I'm looking at that one, I guess, Todd and Reed, on your map, Trail G, where that kind of goes along McCaslin and, you know, up towards Coyote Ridge. Just be good to have like a plan as part of the Coyote Ridge plan. How will people who live in Superior access it? What's the preferred way that we want people to funnel into that area? There's a few access points already, but some may be, you know, problematic with parking or what have you. So just an observation, you know, maybe that can be integrated somehow into the Coyote Ridge consulting plan.
Well, the Coyote Ridge consulting plan obsolete some of the trails that we have in the prioritization. I could just wonder what's makes the most sense, right?
Yeah, and again, there might be some things that change within Coyote Ridge itself. I'm just talking about how we access it as people living in it.
Adding on to that.
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer. I just, you know, if we're paying a consultant to look at the trails and what trails are needed, how does that impact what you guys put together?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, the audio breaks up a little bit, Rita, or see, I didn't catch all that. Thank you.
Yeah, so
There's
back
nothing
to the
that
trail.
compels us to do this before the consultant. Todd and I were just getting organized, basically trying to get it done, because that was like, well, we're charged with it. So there's nothing that compels us to do this actually before next year. But we could do a dry run just to work out the kinks and say, oh, don't worry about it, doesn't really count. This is, but next year will, but we figured out. Because, I mean, obviously we're not gonna use it in this year's budget process. Right. So.
Yeah, some of these trails too, I think we just have to be careful too, because whether we're widening or creating an access point or whatever, I mean, I know, you know, not to harp on the one behind my house, but that area is already pretty full of people that use that space as a dog park. No one has a dog on a leash. And I think widening it and inviting more people to be on it, it's just gonna be even more of a dog park.
Okay, I wouldn't say nobody had.
Well, I'm just saying.
My husband and I used to have, and we always had our dog.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to reply everybody on the earth, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, there are a lot of people.
And it's especially down in those areas where people say, hey, this is a bunch of, you know, open space and the trees and the creek and the dogs are down in the creek and I mean, it doesn't bother me personally, but I know it's not good, right? For many reasons.
And we have a couple locations that have that same similar problem, and at some point we're probably gonna have to step up, you know,
enforcement
the enforcement and management of it. I think the difficulty is some of the local neighbors have been using it that way for a long time, but now other people, you know, are joining in, and you can't really differentiate. I mean, it is, the leash law is the leash law, so that, you know, we can look at some public education if we need to, but
I think it's just, or do we want to encourage it even more of it?
Well, another thing I think we have, in regard to that particular trail, because I live right there too. We paved Paradise, right? It's all paved near us. And so I think people value that trail because it's not paved. I agree. And so.
Oh, and that is something that, you know, surfaces, just because we say a trail.
I know, no.
Just to be clear, I mean, it can be thunder, it can be dirt, it can be concrete, wood. You know.
I'm just bringing it to the general point, not related to the ranking process.
But I guess that's something to be discussed when we get to like picking a trail.
To do what? To do what?
The surface.
Yeah.
I don't know that we.
Let's see, I
mean, we don't have to do it this meeting. I guess. I mean, how much?
Oh,
time
that's
would
true,
it
because
take?
we don't have,
Right, must be a dozen trails, roughly.
that was 13, but maybe.
If we can look at it within just a few minutes, that's fine, but we're not being tasked to do anything right now.
Yeah,
mentioned sending them out.
I mean,
You mentioned like sending them out.
we can send them out.
Yeah.
They're in PDF format, so you can look at them.
So I do want to look at it, but I also don't want to bust time on our agenda.
Right.
But if we want to pull it up just to see what it looks like quickly, we could do that. And then we can take it as.
I don't know if it's a PDF file. Excuse me, it's a PowerPoint file.
Hopefully we won't see anything
Inappropriate.
blow up or. Or just like fire it.
I'm excited about this.
There you go, yeah.
Great maps.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's because you didn't have rated them.
So, for the most part named for however they appeared in the inventory, some dating back quite a few years. This was a proposal to create a gate at that little red circle and go up the access road to provide people in
How does it- Is it possible to share what you're looking at? Because I am not seeing.
So,
I have the
what is
document
this?
that was mailed out, but
Oh, but this isn't the one that was mailed out.
this has been mailed out.
So,
different than.
We're going to though.
Should be shared screen.
yes, absolutely.
Participant share time.
So Mike, you don't see that?
I can see it's not visible. It's very blurry and distant.
Oh,
If you're able to share the screen, that would be helpful. That's not what I'm seeing. I'm just seeing.
It is on shared screen, but it's not, I can't really zoom in on it.
yeah.
That's fine. If you're sending it out, I can review afterwards. I just thought it was easy to share. I can't really make out what you're looking at very well.
Would this one be?
I mean, it would be more of us working with Boulder County.
Yeah.
Well, didn't they say they didn't want to? I mean,
Exactly. This is where they would
It was
have a trial.
time, but I would assume.
This is when, I think Boulder County came back and said that they would not do that unless it was a trailhead.
Oh, that was the one that came directly from the ridge.
Right.
So
Yeah.
this one is down the street from that.
So there was also a comment about ADA access, because the red portion of the red
Yeah,
section is fairly steep, although it's fairly heavily used.
Farm access road.
yeah, I don't. Not be, popular because of safety and because of the current use, yeah.
Okay, we can go to the next one. And Michael, I sent an email, a PDF version, if you can,
Oh, okay,
if it got to you.
I'll pull that one up. I just zoomed in. I can see a little bit better now. Thanks.
This is an old trail proposal that predates Rogers Farm. But Rita and I didn't feel like we should just arbitrarily throw it out, but it seems like it's largely, in my opinion, it's largely made obsolete by access to Rogers Farm, Second, Third Street and so on.
Yeah.
Next one.
Here's a sidewalk there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a proposal to connect from the treatment plant on McCaslin all the way to High Plains Drive. And that neighborhood there serves 76 addresses. Potentially, although I'm not sure why anybody would want to walk along there.
And for the longest time, this was on OSAC's budget for consideration.
And there were some notes in the records that said this was put out for a bid and it was found to have a high
It was
cost
actually,
because of retaining wall issue.
yeah, and this trail all the way to Colton is still a project that Public Works kind of has in their back pocket. We just don't have funding.
Yeah. Next one. This is that little connector between Wiggins and Carville down to, I always forget the name of that little.
And this
Vista
one,
corridor.
and this one tore up the entire neighborhood there in terms of,
Yeah,
of some residents who wanted it, some who didn't.
Yeah.
And I think the town board at the time just essentially.
Well, we should rank it, and if it's undesirable, we should just give it a toss. Like,
well, but she'd also explained that there's been turnover in the ownership of the homes that objected. So I don't know.
Part of the challenge is we have to cross the Frico ditch.
Yeah, and they were very difficult to work
And you
with.
could walk. Well, you could go down the Lanterns and get through, or you can go to
Yeah.
McCaslin to get through.
it's not ideal to have to walk either of those directions for the center, I would argue, but it does have challenges.
It has challenges.
Because of the canal. Next. This is the trail that we were talking about earlier. There's a existing trail in solid red that's a social trail. They're heavily overgrown this time of year. I was on my bike yesterday. That's one connection. The dotted line is another option, which would more directly connect the trail on the far right with the trail on the left to make a more continuous route or connection on that side of the open space. And we and I decided, because of the interest in this trail, we probably ought to break it into two options and people could evaluate them independently.
And when I had looked myself, what I was remembering, and tell me if I'm wrong about this, Christy, was that the dashed one was a more level part until you get over to the further west part, and then either one of them are gonna have, there's like a gully.
Yeah, the dashed one would be more or less level.
It's pretty level.
Like the trail to the right or the left. The solid red has a couple of steep
Ups and downs.
ups and downs that probably represents ADA
Issues.
Yeah, if it was developed. Anyway, you can take a look at those and rank them accordingly. Go ahead. Next one. This one, Michael, is one of those access issues to Coyote Ridge. This has been proposed. It actually showed up a couple times. I had guys actually send me that map picture this year after I was on. He stopped me on my bike up in Coyote Ridge. It's access from Pirate Park. Kind of a switchback that would be more convenient than those straight up the hill trails that exist right now. Next one. This is another Coyote Ridge trail that just was sitting in the inventory of trails. But as I looked at the original map that was in the inventory with the black trails, it's an incomplete map of Coyote Ridge. When you complete the map of Coyote Ridge, in the bottom figure, that's from the map plan, and kind of lay that yellow proposed trail over it. You could think it's a good idea. You could think it's kind of redundant because there's plenty of connections from Coyote Ridge into that neighborhood. It's also a little deceptive in that the horizontal part of the yellow line is actually quite hilly. So it would be an up and down kind of trail.
Some more ADA issues.
Yeah, and that trail was not part of the Coyote Ridge master plan. That never came to their attention. Yeah. Next trail. This is the other one that Mike mentioned, Trail F, a connection from the paved trail up at the top of Colton, Calmonte neighborhood, upper left, paralleling McCaslin, the area where the goats just grazed, all the way to, where Indiana comes out on McCaslin, and then it would join the existing access to Coyote Ridge. That's one trail. Then there was a second trail that was originally drawn from El Dorado K8 to McCaslin. There's good sidewalk and pedestrian caution signs, etc., from El Dorado up to I want to call that
It's Indiana.
It's in Torrey Peaks. So the proposal that's left for G in blue is just a little connector through open, I hate to use the word open space. It's
A green belt.
a green belt space
Yeah.
between two parts of that neighborhood that would connect El Dorado to the chasm, although obviously it doesn't make much sense to do that unless you're gonna do F.
Right.
But that would connect the north-south corridor for trailing for the town of Superior to have that trail there.
Although it does go back to what Mike had said earlier. No,
Yeah.
that is west where the town people really want that access to be. You and I were thinking it's just the practical matter that seemed to be the quickest, easiest, least expensive way to make it happen. But maybe it's.
There is a steep part right by Fire Station Park, or just to the west of Fire Station Park, that would be a retaining wall issue, I would guess.
Yeah, and just to chime in a little bit on this one, I think the reason, and this is a better document, I'm looking at this on my screen too now, Todd, but people have asked, is there a way to connect? So if you were, at the Colton trailhead, is there some easy way that you could get up to Coyote Ridge without having to going on the street? Like certainly McCaslin is a busy street, or going into the neighborhood and going through to access it some other way. So I think there's been, in my view, a number of requests for a trail like the one that you have outlined in red to just be more developed and go all the way through somehow, if possible, to Colton, or at least connect some way from Colton to Coyote Ridge without putting you on the road.
But there is a piece from Colton down to this. This is to pick up where there isn't any.
Correct. Yeah, at the north end of the red trail at the top of the map is a yellow trail. That's a concrete trail that runs around the periphery of Almonte. And then it goes down to Rock Creek. And then there's a slope that goes up to the roundabout, or the underpass that goes behind Town 15 right there. So there's good existing connections to Colton, little zigzag, but good connection, at least to the top of Calmonte. What's left there is what we have anymore.
Yep.
This was one left in the inventory. This is from the top of Calmonte, below Fire Station Park. Oh, kind of connecting, the way this one is kind of dead ends on McCaslin. Maybe it would go well with Trail F. This is my neighborhood. I'm down near the bottom of it, but my impression is there's very little. There's virtually no school traffic or pedestrian traffic that goes up that Tierra Ridge court at the top of the red line. That I can't imagine there would be much in the way of much pedestrian use to get there as it is right now. And there is a existing paved trail up by Fire Station Park that parallels at the top of the hill. That is a fairly steep ravine that trail is proposed to run along. Okay, next. Let me see, what was this? Oh, this was a trail to connect from, a proposal to connect from Third Street. Along Coal Creek and along the periphery of town open space. And then connect to Meyerhoff Single Tree Trail off on the existing trail on the west end of that open space. An alternative would be to run along our open space to the south. There's a little dotted line there. It would probably require another bridge. And I've not walked that initial section where there's that pending property that the town has entered into an intent to purchase. I have no idea whether you can run a trail through there
There's
or
been,
not.
there's been pros and cons, people who want it and people who don't, so.
Yeah,
The one that goes along the bottom of that green parcel.
Yeah.
Is, right where you guys are gonna do the, close to where the prairie dog fence is.
they're running along the fence
Yeah.
line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the fence line isn't the property line,
Oh, it's
Oh,
it's not,
well, that's confusing.
it's very confusing, but
Okay.
it's in a good spot to buffer migration, so, but it does sit, the fence line does sit, a
Is it-
little bit.
is the fence line on town property or is it on Boulder County property?
Town.
Okay. So this one has some pluses and minuses in that it connects more of Rock, Coal Creek, I suppose. Minuses in my mind is that it could compromise some of the riparian habitat in there. Okay, next one. This was proposed by the Historical Commission. It's Boulder County property. Once you get 20 or 30 feet in on the trail at the far right, it becomes county property. And that's the old industrial mine site. I did a tour with the Historical Commission in there early in the spring as part of their activities. And it's a nice, interesting piece of superior history. It'd be nice to have that trail. At the time they proposed it, the Historical Commission said they'd sign it for historical significance and so on. But this requires participation.
And I think they responded positively.
Yeah.
We had this on our request list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was on our request list. I think the deal was we get the maintenance of it. If we put it in and we get the maintenance of it, it would be the deal, but,
And I
yeah.
don't know that the loop one was the one that was run by Boulder. I think the bottom one was the one that's straight in and out. Do you know?
I don't remember that.
Those were our two options.
Yeah.
The tour
Did we give them both?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
the
Then we're
tour
good.
I was on did the straight up and back
Mhm.
path. I would think the loop would be more enjoyable for people that were doing it on their own. And offer some more signage options, I would. Next. This one is that we have ranked this one in principle with Boulder County for a number of years. In the upper right corner, if you can use your imagination, is the underpass underneath 36 that connects to the US 36 bikeway, and then Louisville's Davidson Mesa up a little bit to the north. So this is a proposal to connect the existing Meyerhoff Single Tree Trail, which is in orange, to that connection. Both the trail and that underpass have a fair amount of bicycle traffic. There are a number of options that either the town or the county, I'm not sure, scoped out at the time this found its way into our inventory. I think it would be based on a new evaluation and costs estimates and so on. So that's what we're ranking when we're telling Boulder County that we're interested in the connection there, I guess.
Yeah. I think there is a lot of traffic,
Yeah.
especially biking traffic through there and having a better route. People end up out on Marshall Road sometimes and they don't,
Yeah.
it's not the
I think-
best.
I think this would be a priority just to connect, because, having talked to Louisville, there's a desire to have more of the commuter paths connect easily without having to put people on the road. And Marshall Road is a little scary, I think, to put a bike on. The people bike on it all the time, but I think having an alternative to get to the underpass without getting on the road would be pretty welcomed, probably by Louisville as well, just to have that access back and forth.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, are we, feel like we're coming to the end? This was a leftover trail. It was an alternative to get to the single tree trail, which you can see down at the bottom left of the map, the little pale white line. This was a way of getting to the neighborhood from behind Target, up along Sagamore. It would be an alternative. I don't think we've talked to Boulder County about this.
No, and I
For a
think
while.
that the Sagamore neighbors would not favor that at all. So
Yeah.
we propose a trail along the west edge and they were all thumbs down on that one. So
Well, then maybe we should just pull this one even from the,
We could still make comments, just like we would the
Okay.
one that's in the Waterford homes.
I mean,
Downtown
something to,
Superior.
I mean,
there,
Well, it'd be nice to vote on it and retire it.
you
If
can
that's
see
everybody's-
where Guardian Storage is, right?
Yeah,
So the Turnbull property is just below that.
is between
The
the proposed
rectangular,
trail
sort
and
of
the white
rectangular.
roofing.
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
So. I mean, if and when that gets developed, you could ask for a connection.
Yeah, we'd still have to involve Boulder County.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
through there.
yeah, because it's there.
And it would also require a bridge over that canal.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right there, yeah. Is that it?
Unless the developer puts it in.
Yeah.
Oh, and this one, I rank this one as expensive, but maybe would get heavy potential use. Rita, I think, ranked this one as not worth talking about. So I think we included it so that we can clarify it. This is a route from the very large south neighborhoods from Colton Road to the community park area. That is a steep slope down from Colton Road and crosses a canal. So it would require, in my mind, would have to be concrete switchbacks to prevent erosion and then a bridge. It'd be expensive.
And it's a ditch,
Yeah.
so that's, yeah.
On the plus side, would service that large neighborhood quite a bit. I imagine it would get a fair amount of use if it happened to be there. So we can put it that one and figure out what we want to do.
I think this is, it's so interesting to look at all of this. Thank you for putting it all together. I think one of the hard things about ranking these is gonna be they're wildly different budget proposals.
Oh, yeah.
They're not apples to apples.
Not at all.
But they never will be.
No,
no.
So we might as well just take a
We're
crack
just gonna have to.
and kind of value.
Yeah.
Do we want to value low cost trails or, valuable high cost trails? I think
Right.
that's something we can just.
Yeah.
And we need to look at safety issues. Yeah.
A couple of those trail ideas that are kind of the west of the Guardian storage, that's all agricultural land where that Boulder County tenant grazes cows.
Yes.
And, we close the Colton trailhead for grazing, and that is not a popular thing.
No, it is not.
So,
Yeah.
we're gonna have bicyclists and trail hikers next to cows. How do we balance safety with grazing to reduce fire risk?
Yeah. So there are
Boulder
all-
does it all the time. I mean.
there are cattle in bikers on that Meyerhoff Singleton Trail. That trail's not closed.
But there are different breeds of cows that have different breeds.
Oh, yeah, I go. Yeah,
And the temperament of the cows that are kind of around Fulton are a different breed of cow than the ones that are. Yeah, over by,
oh,
because there's two difference.
I'll get them even white.
I thought Boulder County rotated. I thought Boulder County rotated which farmers
I thought they did.
had the chance to graze.
Boulder County is definitely prioritized as the grazers, correct? Like over prairie dogs, for example, which are native.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I think that the other thing we have to look at too is something a convenience versus is there, 20 feet up, like on the idea, Rita, you were talking about throwing out and going, going down. I mean, you ride what, 100 yards
Or
east,
less.
and you're into the, right?
Mhm.
And just like the one.
Or one. You can go either.
You go down a little hill and you're at the side, so why do you need another, right? Like, so I think on some of those, you gotta look at what's already there and how, is it that much of a, is it that important to spend money on a very small convenience? Whereas when you're. Yeah, and then why? And then
Versus the one to go to Coyote Ridge where there isn't.
Right. Right, where there isn't.
So if it's acceptable, Rita and I will send that out to everybody as a homework assignment. And then we'll come back with a ranking next meeting.
No, it's a ranking,
Not
people
what
won't get it ranked to that quick.
And rank
there's-
it the next month and talk about it. in
Do we need
August.
a methodology for ranking or?
It's,
I would suggest that you think about it, the two of you in terms of what would be on this homework assignment. And then maybe walk us through the methodology next meeting.
Oh, yeah.
And
I thought you guys had done that in the June meeting.
we had gone through the questions, yeah, and talked about it.
But we did have some questions because you weren't here.
Right, and I shared those with him,
Okay, because my main question was around the,
the ranking of the wildlife.
yeah, it felt like there were lots of ways to add up points for other things and not lots of ways to take off points or whatever.
It was taken off, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
related to what, because you got ones and twos, like, other than the criteria above, you could get 5s or 6s or 7s or something, anyway, I don't remember what it
Oh,
was.
that was only 30.
But anyway, there were higher numbers, and when you got down to ranking how important it was for wildlife, it was 1s and 2s. And so I felt like there was no way to really.
Catch up.
Yeah.
if we could talk through that next
I
month,
think we should.
and then we can come back in September with rankings.
Yeah, there's
We
no
should do that.
urgency. Then we won't. send
Yeah, because they
anything out.
might not even want to rank until after the Coyote Ridge consultant is done, because as Micah pointed out, that perhaps that.
Yeah.
I think the consultant would love to look at it,
Oh,
whatever
information we get.
whatever you have at
Okay.
whatever point in time.
Yeah, thanks for putting it together, Todd and Rita. This is great.
August is often busy though, so I think they're gonna get. Push this a little bit and we can less busy.
Yeah,
Oh, I thought you meant the August meeting agenda. I'm like, no.
just in
In
general.
general, like.
Mhm. Yeah. I think we have.
That's a very fair point.
Yeah. Yeah.
First week of June.
Okay, thank you for that. The rodenticide campaign plan in policy recommendation, I saw it published in, was it the Hello Superior that went out? Yeah, that was
Not this
fantastic.
month, but last month, yes. Yeah, so that was good.
And I think we have it in the budget for next year to do the birth control, so.
The 4th of July.
Good, that's
Yeah,
good.
people were responsive to this conversation and had questions and wanted to know more.
Nice.
Yeah, did you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know it kind of goes into the 4th of July comments, but what I thought was especially valuable was the picture that you brought in, Tracy, of the coyote. Yeah, healthy versus mange.
Yeah, it's a good way to start a conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anything else for the rodenticide program though, with anything that we need to be working with Kevin for in communications?
We still have some things slated, and I think that he has not run through everything. I don't think there's anything he needs to think about.
Let's talk about July 4th. How was it from your perspective? Sorry.
It was fine, it was just really hot, but I, yeah, was sweaty by the end of it, but it's good. I thought it was, I stopped by OSAC a few times when I could, it was just stuck at the fire truck. Making sure people don't terrorize it.
The old one?
Yeah, that's where it's really cool. It was fine. I don't know, how did you guys think the OSAC booth was? It was like, every time I went there was always people there, so.
I think that's love, being.
Right. We did have some comments, which was great. So some of them we've talked about, the connector trail from Calamonte to Fireman Park. For those who live up near Snowmass on the way to Coyote Ridge, they wanted to see trash receptacles and dog poop trash bags, which I think it's more of a park thing, but still. Some people who say they love the open space, and some people who say they want to sell it. So I mean, still,
Yeah.
a little bit of everything, but I do think that we got a lot of people asking questions about the rodenticides, and even the coyote dog game that we have. It still attracts. I mean, I think we should update it somehow for next year, and we have time to do that. But
I do agree though that it's slow at the end, so like we were maybe a half hour off. Yeah, it could be trimmed, but I think as the pancakes, as people.
Yeah, elevated to the.
What they could do is shifts. I don't know that we just. We can have an arm shipping. Multiple people.
maybe we could do that next year,
And
for sure.
but I thought it was good.
Anything else on July 4th? Super thanks to the town for setting everything up.
Yeah.
It was amazing to have that all set up. Okay, you want to talk budget, Rita?
You say it easy, but.
We have it.
It takes a lot of time. It's the coordinate, organize, it just, it looks easy, so.
Yeah. Budget is whatever.
Yeah. Do you have anything for budget?
For budget, right now, we've put in the initial requests. The next step is our finance director and the town manager will sit down and try to balance all these requests. So that's where things may get sliced and diced a little bit, because when we present it to council in the fall, it should be balanced. And then they'll maybe shift some priorities around as well. So we'll see where the balancing comes out. Obviously, we, you know, if people ask for what you want or would like, and we never get all of that, but hopefully we'll get some of that.
Leslie, can you remind us of approximately when that starts getting discussed? Because I know we usually try to tune in a little bit.
I can remind you, and I believe, I know it's in the October, it's on the October council
Okay.
agenda.
I think it's first presented at the first meeting in October, and then it's the first meeting in November when you're
Okay.
anticipated adopting.
So it's those initial meetings when we like to hear that discussion, I think, so.
Yeah, and I can provide you feedback on, you know, if things drop out before then, just trying to, get it within range of our balancing act there. There will be things that drop out, so.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the round table and make a, what's that?
I was just gonna say that rescheduling the October.
Oh, isn't
meeting
that, is it, oh,
That's under. Oh, you're.
that's after, right?
Mine.
So let's go around the room. Mike, I'll start with you out there in the Zoom land. Do you have anything for us?
No, nothing to add. Good discussion. Thank you.
All right.
COSA, who is going? I think
That's,
just
it's
went-
October, right?
It's
Yes.
October, I think I sent the link and everything,
Yeah.
so you can review the whole schedules out. Registration opened up this Monday. Hotels are all open, so
There were three
There are
people
three
that
choices, whichever one was put in.
move forward and make sure we get you registered, because it gets full quick.
Fast.
I can't, so I have a work commitment. but I
So
don't-
Todd, you or Jeff?
No for Christie.
Yeah.
lots to know.
I wanna know.
Okay.
Jeff, I have-
So then it's just Jeff. And find out, because maybe Jeff won't be able to go and we won't.
like, do you want to send one person or two people? Like, does anybody want?
We had discussed it before and we had said that we were just gonna do one, and there's only the three that haven't gone at all.
Yeah.
Oh,
And two of the three have said that
Okay,
they have conflicts.
okay, let's reach out
Let's
to
see
Jeff.
if Jeff can.
Yeah,
and if he can't, then
then we skip
no
you.
one will.
And
Yeah.
you go by yourself.
And then maybe next year too will go.
Yeah.
Mm.
Any other roundtable? All right,
No, that's it.
Leslie.
I just wanted to bring up the goats. They're doing a great job. This summer grazing is being funded through our FEMA hazard mitigation grant. Also related to that and wildfire mitigation, we have a RFP out for a project manager. And then we will soon have an RFP out for vegetative management. So the project manager is somebody to help us run all the projects that are getting funded through hazard mitigation. And then the vegetative fuel would be the mowing, the weeding, removal of all the vegetative fuels, all that kind of work. So, well, it's not necessarily all getting done, but we're doing what we can through our landscape contract, which is a little bit of a burden. So, for, the deal with FEMA and the hazard mitigation grants, they'll provide up to 3 years of funding. Then that dries up. So, then we're back to just funded by the town. But by that point in time, hopefully we've removed a lot of that debris that's fire debris and overgrowth, and we're to a point where it's a little bit more manageable and we have a system.
And are there upcoming goat experiences on the calendar?
That's an interesting question, because the goat vendor said that they've been getting requests to do goat yoga. And they said they would be willing to try it. And what they would do is they would use the youngsters and the pygmies that they have. They don't use the full.
Some of those guys are way too big.
Yeah. And they would do it with a small group. They would probably do it, in the open space somewhere. So, or town 15 might be a location where they do it. Any objections?
I just, what does it speak to for the town to take on liability for that? I sort of feel like if the vendor wants to run that, but doesn't sound there a little bit like, I mean, I know this has been done,
Yeah,
but
I don't know why people want.
it's just.
I really don't. But it is fairly common, but their proposal was for them to run it, and we would just perfect things to do so.
Just things conflict with FEMA or anybody that we're using.
I mean, it would not be part of that program at all, it'd be separate, but it's something I thought I'd throw out there. We don't have another engagement set up with them at this point, but we try to do that at least every, once or twice a year, if not more often, so.
Good. I wouldn't have any issues with it unless any of you would.
Let me know what the date is.
Just maybe, like you said, the liability piece, but. Yeah. Okay. Anything else for the round table?
I think that was it.
Christie.
Nothing more.
No.
Okay, couple quick things for you, Mike. We were on just outside, out on the corner rush, it's just past the trailhead, and there's all kinds of rye growing up there. Is that intentional?
I don't think it was planted.
There's like enough to harvest.
Yes, I saw it out there last year.
Yes.
I assume it's a holdover from when that
When it was
land
farmed.
may have been farmed. There is rye, but
Yes, there is.
I just say,
I looked it up because
it's the one grass. that we don't have.
stop. Yeah, anyway. I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah.
So this is a sort of open space, sort of park stuff. Timing is sprinklers. The sprinklers tend to run even on some of the paths that border open space at 8 o'clock at night. And that's when everybody's trying to walk.
We're all walking our dogs.
Yes.
It gets sprayed every single day.
Yes. And so I hear a lot of complaints. So I just thought I would put in a plug that if they could find that, and even if there's a lot of hours in the day that don't involve, people wanting to walk.
When I was on ACES, we had similar questions, and I don't remember the exact number of sprinkler heads that Matt Ware has to manage, but it's like thousands.
Right.
And based on the number of zones that he has to manage and irrigate, there's no way, and how the water storage and water capacity work, there's no way to just irrigate everything at once, like between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. kind of thing. It's when the water is available based on the zone, so Matt's always trying to balance not irrigating this part because it's a really popular walking place versus irrigating this part and not affecting the geese, and irrigating this where so it's
If you could mark it on a map, because we have gotten some C-click fixes on that.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's hard to know, like, okay, is this, because in the irrigation world, is it attached to this clock or this clock? And if it's attached to this clock, that one has maybe 7 zones, so, and if however long they run, you need 10 hours.
Okay.
So it just depends where it is and what clock it's associated with.
Right. Well, I mean, I could certainly.
But we do kind of bounce around, why is it running during the day? Why is it running at night?
I mean, it'd be nice to, like you were saying, 10 to 6 would be great.
and I
But
and
that
I-
doesn't sound like it's possible, huh?
from a water conservation standpoint, I would love to see us irrigate during the nighttime hours, but that would require a substantial upgrade to the town's irrigation system, which is gonna cost a lot of money. It's back to Wesley's point of balancing. Do we do this trail? Do we invest in upgrading this
Everything's
zone?
right off.
So, yeah.
But I don't want to just,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
we'll see where it falls and if there's the ability to shift it.
Okay,
Yeah.
when I'm on notice, particular ones, it's like, lots of people inviting, like, around Circle Park, or, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, you and I discussed the potential of an additional camera,
Yes.
and we have not brought that up. And I just thought we would start that conversation.
All those in favor, raise your hand.
Were we going to do, I thought we were waiting until next year. We can do it now. Can we afford to do this?
Yeah. Yeah, they're less than $500.
Yeah.
All in. Okay.
Are you in, Mike? For Charlie?
So Part, I'll need to work with you. I was gonna save this for the wildlife update, but both Christy and Karen Repine, I'm not sure how she says it, have agreed to help input all of the observations that are coming on the camera. And I wasn't really actually willing to add another camera until I had help with that, because it's a daily commitment. So, but now we've got additional people who can help with that, and so I think it would be great. I think we'll learn more. We've learned a lot from the camera. Okay, sounds good.
Where were we thinking of putting the second camera?
Well, we really haven't thought about it because we're even sure we're gonna have one.
Yeah.
Well, I will
But
get
she's got ideas.
But yeah,
I bet
we
you
do have some ideas. And one of the, anyway, let me give that a little thought. I'll come back with a recommendation. It's fun. Good. Okay.
Number.
I have something just to tag team with what you brought up with the goats. I meant to bring it up last month, we spaced it, but my hometown in Iowa, Clive, Iowa, which is a suburb outside of the Des Moines metropolitan area, about 19,000 people in Clive, has its own goat herd. And I'm sure there's other towns and cities doing this, but every time I go back home, I think about this more and more. They put out a lot of information in their community publications. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but it is a smaller herd. It's probably not the size of what we have contracted right now. But the goats live, I believe, near on a parcel of land near their city hall. Not suggesting that it has to be that. But they're maintained year round. I don't know what level of staffing or if there is a person, but it is volunteer supported. So it's a great way for the community to get involved and do shifts with the goats. When I think it's more when they're at City Hall, but there is a significant volunteer base, which I think is a really cool way for people to interact with the goats. And then of course they're dispatched all during the warm months to manage invasive vegetation. But it's been going for 5-6 years now. They're called the Greenbelt goats, if anyone wants to look it up. I'm back and forth there a lot and would be happy to connect with someone in the city to ask questions.
What's the town again?
Clive, Iowa, CLIVE. And it's really fun too, because when they are at City Hall, you know, they have little shelters. There's trees around there, so they have shade. But there are specific feed machines too that are connected with City Hall, and so people can come with their quarters in and feed the goats when they are there. But I've been thinking a lot about like how sustainable is this to keep contracting. I mean, we have the FEMA grant now, but exactly what you were saying. You know, if this is going to continue to be a primary strategy, I mean, I'm always going to advocate for the native grazers. Just we need more than that, obviously, but to leave them put, right? Let them do their jobs. But it seems to me like if there is a person who could be connected, like potentially through like an RFP, what you're describing, probably a different person, obviously a different person. That person will have a lot of merits anyways, but I just wonder if this could be a cost saving strategy and also a way for people in the community to be involved. Leslie, have you heard of other towns?
I mean, municipalities across the country have educational farms. Where they have farm animals, they may, you know, but it's more of a educational, interpretive. They might run camps there, but they do programming. It's more about learning about.
Yeah, and this is not like that. This is just like they happen to be housed on this little parcel of land adjacent to City Hall. And they work all up and down this green belt.
I mean, we could definitely look into it. I'm gonna guess that the profit margin between maintaining the goat herd and us paying for the goat herd is not that much.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
You gotta consider all the things they do too, like you're saying veterinary and all the
Year-round care, but yeah, I've never done that cost analysis.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a new one.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Don't have.
I just want to thank Mari for getting the thing about trying to get new recruits for
Oh.
wet into the, town publications. Have you heard anything back from anybody?
No.
Oh. Cause it's been,
No.
I've seen it twice.
Yeah, they sent it out a couple times, but I haven't had anybody reach out yet.
Okay. Well, we'll keep trying.
You will.
The only thing I wanted to really provide more clarification than anything to an email that I sent out to the team the other day. And it was because I had been asked, hey, Kara, are you aware that there is an online petition about Town 15? And the reason why I sent that email out to you all is I didn't want to have a discussion group. We don't have email discussions, but I just wanted you to know that it was out there too. I mean, that's great, but it did not come from open space. And I just wanted to take this time to talk about it and say that my perspective is I don't consider us a resident activist group. We were all selected by what is now the town council to provide open space recommendations. In terms of how that affects our wildlife, our, across the board wildfire mitigation, absolutely. But that's what I was trying to convey in that email. But that does not preclude you from participating as an individual, certainly. And I was following the community remarks, and this was on Facebook, and I found the comments insightful. But I would also just suggest, because again, if you want to make public comment as an individual, that is fine. I'm not about to say you can't do that, but I do think that it also warrants some thought of your capacity serving on this committee. Because if you do make a comment in social media land, and someone knows you because of the work that you do for OSAC, it is not a very difficult stretch to make that perhaps if I make a comment, I am providing a blanket endorsement from all of OSAC. Mm-hmm. And that becomes dangerous ground. And I did see that last week. And unfortunately, I would say the information was incorrect. But I don't know if this individual was speaking on behalf as an individual or their committee, because there was no clarification. But I will say that, yes, I'm wondering now, is that what the entire committee of theirs thinks? So
It was not this committee.
It was not this committee. No, it was planning commission. But I do hope that you stay engaged, but just be careful with that engagement. That's all I can. Unless you want to talk about it more. I just wanted to provide clarification for my email, because we can't do discussions, but that's what that was about. Okay.
And had you not done that, I would not have known it was there, because I think most of you guys know I'm not really into the whole social media thing.
Right. Okay. That's all I want to say about it. Anyway, let's look at reminders, rescheduling our October meeting. So yes, we're gonna have a lot of absences in October, which is fine, because we are a group of volunteers and sometimes life just happens and we can't always just be here. But we want to consider when we can maybe move that date. And did everyone chime in a little bit on what works for them?
We agree on what's supposed to do the first.
Well, not in terms of feedback yet, but those who had provided feedback, everybody had said that the first was a good alternative. I had not heard from Amber, Christy, Jeff, Joanne, Mike, or Tom.
I missed that. Apologize. I'm gone.
Okay, so the choices were October that we came up with. We're sticking with the Wednesdays. So the Wednesday before, the Wednesday after. And the Wednesday after, there is a park meeting that Leslie would be at. Do you go to park meetings? Okay, so.
And they don't start till 7, so. But we would have to juggle the broadcast.
Oh, that's right. I was gonna say, there's another reason. Okay, that was it. So that really does either keep it on the 8th, when, as far as I know, there are only 2 people who can attend. Myself and Leslie, just because okay, and you can, Joanne,
I can be here any of those.
okay.
So just the first and the 8th. I can do the first.
I can be
Yeah,
here.
first, I can do the first.
Okay, so,
And I
Yeah.
really appreciate it. I'm gonna be in France and
Cool.
Kari will be at COSA and I guess Jeff might be. at
On the
COSA.
8th, you mean?
On the normal
Regular time,
yeah.
Mike, can you be there on the 1st?
We can't hear you, Mike.
I know,
Mike, you're muted.
I just love it. Okay, October 1st, you're talking about?
Yes,
I believe so. Let me quickly put that. Just have it up. Switched. Yes, that would work for me.
so Todd, you were the only one. You're a no,
I'm,
okay,
Jeff, we don't know.
that's a question mark, yeah, thank you.
Well, hopefully he'll be at COSA,
Yeah.
so maybe he'll be available. We'll see.
Also, very related topic, I noticed that our meetings are no longer on my calendar. Like, I don't have an August or September, October.
Oh,
Meeting invite.
meeting invite.
Meeting invite?
Ah.
I've never seen
I
it.
know.
they're sending.
I'll give them a.
It's coming in 24 hours, or do you mean?
No, it's on my calendar.
It used.
Oh, I got it on,
You're right.
I put it on my own calendar.
We can.
There's
send
nothing
that out.
that's set.
I just,
I mean.
We get emails still.
I never got one.
And it has the link in case you were dialing in and, you
Yeah.
know, we have an official.
I'm with you,
invite.
Todd, I never got that. I just put it on myself.
Came from the paper.
Okay.
I can certainly do it on my calendar, but I just noticed that it was no longer using ends, right?
I never got it. I never got it.
It comes out automatically, but let's ask her. If
It's
that
automatically.
Something like
If that-
that.
is no longer happening or what's going on.
Well, I think, yeah, I got it for the whole year, well, I got it for 6 months, maybe that's what she did, anyway. And I will not be here in September. Doesn't sound like that one's quite so. The attendance.
October 1st.
October 1st.
October 1st is the one. And you guys will take care of whatever, thanks.
To make the public.
And I will have another board meeting right before, so I'm just, running in, but.
All right, let's move to our standing updates team. Do we have anything new from the Raptor program?
I mean, you guys saw his email.
Yeah.
So I think obviously it seems like lots of good success. Both with catch-all Cooper talks. So, yeah, I mean, nothing that
Wasn't already in there?
in the
Okay.
email.
I did get a picture of the hawks flying the coop, like the day
Oh.
they left the nest.
Yeah.
But I just haven't had a chance to send it, so I'll send it. But there were 2 of them and we saw them leave and then they immediately got packed by little birds, so. They were like. Yeah, I'm, and they're not there anymore, so, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. They looked great.
Is that,
Yeah,
is it Friday night walk? And they're meeting at Riverbend, is that right?
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
I didn't get the time though. I'll have to look at the email.
That's what I,
Mm-hmm.
or, I don't know, what was that? Peter, sorry.
I have it at 6:30. 6:30? That's what I put in my calendar.
My email is just kind of like faded out and the end of it, the top spot that is not. There we go. You see it just like bouncing all over. 6:30 p.m. Meet on the sidewalk along the south side of Riverbend Pond.
All right,
I walk down to HHR.
wonderful. What about wildlife monitoring?
So we did move the camera, now down along Rock Creek, near Palmonte. And, so far, we have seen a lot of raccoons. Nothing else. So, I have to think that there's other things. Oh, we know there's deer down there. There are deer tracks in the, creek bed. And we know you had coyote, at your house. So, waiting over for dinner. Yeah, exactly. Come on over. So we're waiting to see, what else shows up on the camera. We had great success with it down at Coal Creek. And we saw consistently, deer and raccoon, and we saw coyote and bobcat. So it was really fun to see all of the animals that are down there. And so yeah, we'll see what we're seeing along Rock Creek now with the camera there. I sent you an email that had the map. If you can pull up the map of the sightings that we've seen so far this year.
When did you send it? I can check.
Maybe 5:45, right before I ran over here.
It was a map, I said.
Yes, it's a PDF. Yes.
Wow.
So, this is the map that Society generates for us. So these are all of the observations for the year so far. Does not discriminate between things that came from the camera, so you can see a lot of little dots around where the camera was. And then individual observations as well. But I do think it's interesting to see, I mean, we do obviously have a lot of wildlife along the Coal Creek corridor. There's a pretty obvious corridor between Bowes Pond and HHR. And then also quite a bit of wildlife activity over near Rock Creek and one thing. So, anyway, we will see how this flushes out, but we're currently at 130 trees. A lot of that is camera. But yeah, doing really well. We're already above the number of observations that we have left, all of us. So,
If it's a dark red dot, it's like multiple of each one, right? Because there's a light pink dot on opposite side and a dark red.
these are all just red. I don't know. Yeah, so it's just putting sort of dots on top of each other and if there's multiple in one location. I have to go in and do some data cleanup because I didn't figure out how to put in, I didn't do it right in terms of not putting in trail camera and everything showing up in one location with the trail camera. And so there's slightly different locations. So I'm gonna fix that and make it so that it's obvious where the two different trail camera locations were along. Okay. So, yeah, and then I already mentioned we have volunteers to help with data entry, so that's good thing.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I had something to add, so I did dig up the report that was done on the Prebles Meadow jumping mouse.
Yes.
And I'll send that out to everybody because I have a lot of great information, and this was done as part of the hazard mitigation grant, so it was funded through FEMA. Consultant looked at a variety of things only in the areas where we are doing work as part of hazard mitigation. So it's not all town parcels.
Okay.
And in particular, the information on the meadow mouse was that it didn't, there was no indication of any active meadow mice in the parcels we were working on.
Okay.
So there wasn't any overlap, but not to say, that
They could be somewhere else. Yeah.
they could be somewhere else. But it also goes through a lot of other plant and wildlife species and what was found where. So I think I sent it out to you ahead of time, but I'll send it out to all of you. And I think it's going to be great information to put in our management plan as well, because she mapped out wetlands and did some, description of some of the locations and some of the drainage areas, and yeah, it's good information.
Nice.
But it kind of clarifies, it's not that we don't have it, we just don't have it in those parcels where we're gonna be doing work.
I think most of that, the proposed habitat is kind of up along the St. Brandon Creek, kind of closer to the Lions and Longmont.
Oh,
And it's all, it's a little too arid in this part of the county.
So they have been historically on Rock Creek. And not that long ago on Hill Creek, west.
And I think there may have been a citing further or, you know, evidence of further west on Rock Creek in the county. But
We don't know for sure. I mean, but historically they have been there, at different times. So I know when they were doing a lot of work on the plots, they were finding probably along. And one creek. So, anyway, who knows?
But it's a great report and it has a lot of good information. We can.
Anything else? Wildfire mitigation. Habitat preservation update. We've talked about that throughout this meeting, unless there's anything that we didn't address.
So I had one for prairie dog.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Nothing per se relative to our plan, we're updated with that. But just a reminder that the US Army Chemical Materials site in Pueblo will be receiving relocated prairie dogs from August 4th to October 30th this year. So it's a bummer and we didn't pump the brakes and wait to relocate those coteries in that area until that site was open. But just to kind of remind everybody that if there are prairie dogs in conflict areas that don't come across OSAC, that is an option. I know there's Boulder County people on the same emails that I get, so they should be, I know they're well aware of this option as well. So if anyone, if it comes up, let me know and I can get you the info that's in our prairie dog plan. But if it is ever an issue of like, well, we're maybe talking 20 prairie dogs or, you know, a couple coteries, like it's never too small, you know, to relocate. I know that like finding drivers, like financial feasibility, all of that becomes part of the discussion, but there is like a pretty large network of volunteers who, even if they're working on one specific project, you know, there's sometimes coordination of transportation of prairie dogs. So just keep that in mind that there are ways to work this out if there's prairie dogs in conflict areas. Just put that out there.
Thank you for that. And I'm also thinking just, I mean, we've talked about before just how much we appreciate the work that you've done, but it's really difficult, I think, when we look to our neighbor in Louisville and Red Tail Ridge, which borders our town, knowing that they're not being as vigilant as what you have worked so hard. I mean, I know it's a team effort, but you have put so much energy into that, Amber. So thank you for equipping us with a plan that we hope that our town council will use if it's ever brought forward. Okay. We've already talked about habitat. Grant asks. Nothing new.
Nothing on the horizon right now.
Same for communication, nothing.
Do we still do joint meetings with Louisville?
We haven't.
Yeah,
We did last year.
we did do one last year. I went to one, but I didn't.
That's the only one.
Oh, that's the one.
Yeah.
And we can reach
That was
out.
one- It's a pretty big group of people.
We can reach out. to
Yeah.
them. We need to. There's someone who used to be on open space who still sends notes to either Mike and Rita or to me and Mike at times, giving suggestions for, you know, making accessibility in the town. So we're interesting, but he's no longer on the open space. It's with great ideas.
It would be interesting to talk to them about
Yeah.
this.
Yes.
If they have anything to, you know, I don't know. But
What's where, what?
It's 88. right on the
Yeah.
other side of 36.
Of the high school.
All right, well, I don't see anything else on the agenda, do you?
No.
Okay, well, team, that concludes our meeting for this evening, this month. We'll see you next month. Thanks for everything.
Bye, Mike.
Thanks,
Yeah.
everyone. Appreciate it.
I think
Thank you.
everyone's chance for.